Congratulations to those of you guys who have gone ahead and sent me your Google Analytics certifications. If you haven't done that, those are due this evening. So make sure I get those in my inbox. Guys, that's a certification that, man, you can make the argument that that's the one that will serve you best of all of the ones that we've done thus far. I mean, Google Analytics will serve you incredibly well as an entrepreneur. Will serve you well on projects that you might do on a freelance basis or a contract basis, or even if you work at a company, will help you, no matter what department you're in, help you better leverage data in your segment of the company. Um, Having access to data like that Google Analytics can provide for you is absolutely invaluable. I've leveraged it on sales teams to find out, how I can best be, utilizing my website as a lead funnel for my business. We've used it on the research and development side of things to find out what content is drawing the most eyeballs at a business, and so where our target market is most interested. On down the line, it's a very valuable certification, and so similar to our other ones, guys, let me encourage you to put that on your LinkedIn profile, put it on your resume. That's absolutely a critical thing for you to be able to tell folks about. It's a very valuable certification. Similarly, guys, we've gone ahead and started Mimic Pro. I'm a big fan of Mimic Pro. I've worked with Stukent, the company who makes Mimic Pro, a good bit over the past few years to continue to optimize this tool. And I really like the things that they're doing. As you've seen, Mimic Pro mimics a real life Google AdWords strategy. I think it does better. It does a really good job of that. Keep in mind with this how I am going to be grading Mimic Pro. I am not ranking our class based on any one topic, whether it's profit or return on investment or class rank. What I am judging you on in this is how well you're improving, how well you're looking at your data and continuing to get better. So early on in this process, what I've already seen with a lot of you guys is that we're having a significant amount of return on investment, but where we're struggling is profit, right? And that makes sense if you think about business. If I give you $1,000, let's say, and you only spend $1 of that $2,000 on marketing, right? So you've only spent $1, and that $1 makes you $2, right? That's, from a return on investment perspective, that's awesome, right? You've doubled your money. That's 100% ROI. That's great. Well, but think about that from a profit perspective. Right? We really haven't profited that much as a percentage of our total $2,000 that I've actually given you, right? That's a very poor profit for the company. So while you did great on return on investment, what you've done a poor job of is profit on that. So in Mimic Pro and in Google and Google AdWords as well, that can happen for a number of reasons. Number one, what I see most often on Mimic Pro is that you haven't bid enough on your ads. What I see a lot of students do is you see what the bid range is and you take the average, right? Well, keep in mind that that's not always a great strategy for marketers to do. If you know that there are clicks out there for your business, wouldn't you be willing to, or sometimes, the answer to this is sometimes, I'll give you a leading indicator for the answer. Wouldn't you rather have those clicks in your business than give them to your competitor? Wouldn't you even be willing to pay more than the average person would? I mean, let's say the average click for this is, $1 to $5 and you're selling a $100 camera. Wouldn't you rather, wouldn't you be willing to, pay a few more bucks than average in order to get that conversion? Well, the answer is sometimes, right? And so if you're having a strong return on investment, but you're struggling with profitability, one of the things that you can do is to consider bidding, 10 to 20% higher on your ads on your current keywords than you currently are. Certainly part of the struggle with that folks run into is that you're also not bidding on enough keywords, right? So I would relate it to your spin that we just talked about is attacking this from a vertical perspective, going vertically and trying to get more out of the keywords that you currently have, but consider a horizontal perspective as well, right? Where you're bidding the same amount, but on a larger amount of keywords. That could be a strategy that might be willing. You might consider testing as well. And then obviously, the landing page itself matters too. The way that Google does these auctions, guys, is that your keyword bidding, your bid strategy, and your landing page are all working in concert with one another. And so if your keywords are not corresponding correctly with your landing page, then you'll do very poorly on this. So make sure that those are optimized together. If you haven't watched their intro videos that Stukent does, I don't only think that those are valuable just for Mimic Pro. Those are a great resource to look at for your education on Google AdWords as well. And so I believe there's 2 of them. I highly recommend watching those. Feel free to reach out if you have any Mimic Pro questions. I've taken this course 2 or 3 times on the student side, and obviously I've taught it 4 or 5 times as a professor as well. So I'm happy to help you out if you have any Mimic Pro questions. All right, guys. So in the first part, and before we go into our lecture, I just want to take a second to tell everybody in the course, great job on your midterm, guys. Far and above, this is the top performing class I've ever had to this point on the midterm. You guys made it really challenging for me to grade it harshly because you all did a great job. I had a very strong amount of you receive A's on this midterm. I was just really proud of the work. You guys gave great answers. So well done on that. If you'd like some feedback, I have feedback available for each one of you for your answers. Please just feel free to reach out on that. And we can either do that via a phone call, or I'm happy to just have an email conversation with you as well to give you feedback on your answers. But just know that that is available for each one of you if you would like to see it. Awesome. Now on to lecture this evening. So in the first part of the semester, we've learned about each critical component of digital marketing, from social media to how to make a winning website, things like that. I like to relate it to that it's kind of like building a house. That, when you build a house, the first most important thing to have is all of the bricks in place, right? So our goal for this last part of the semester is how do we put all those bricks together into one cohesive digital marketing strategy, right? Bricks are only as good as their ability to build a house. So that's the concept that we're going to start introducing today. And then next week, we'll start talking about your final project and how to do that for your final project, which is to build a digital strategy for yourself. Right, so what is a digital marketing strategy? It's simply a plan to achieve your goals, right? It's that process of identifying, articulating, and implementing those digital opportunities that will give your organization a competitive advantage over anybody else, right? So a digital marketing strategy is just like a football game plan, right? And it seems like this is one of those soft things that you'll produce because it's often not client facing or it's not consumer facing. But for any of you guys who have coached at all or been a part of a sports team, right, you know that there is power in a game plan, right? The team that has the best game plan is the team that's going to win, right? I mean, it's no mistake that Alabama and Clemson have been at the top of the conversation in college football for the past several years, right? They've got the best coaches, they've got the best game plan in place. Right, so this crazy thing about this is that nearly half of folks have a nearly half of organizations do not have a firmly written down digital marketing strategy, right? I mean, when you look at whether it's not actually written down, right, that number increases to nearly 84% of folks do not have a written down strategy that they're following, right? 34% of people in this poll are kidding themselves and saying that, oh, we've got a strategy, but it's just integrated into our plan, right? I mean, that strikes me as an organization that's just winging it, right? I mean, in order to actually have a strategy, this is a written down document that you're following on a consistent, steady basis. Certainly kind of like any game plan, it's certainly subject to change, but you need a pivot point to pivot off of as opposed to just freestyling it and being ambiguous with what you're doing. So, I mean, this is one of the stopping points I'd like for you to think about. Why do you think so few companies have a digital marketing strategy? Why is it that you think that, of this slide that we just looked at, that, 84% of people don't have a written down, documented digital marketing strategy? Well, I've got a few thoughts on this. Number one, a strategy causes firms to be accountable to something, right? When you have written down goals and a written down strategy, it means that you have to be accountable to reaching those goals, right? When in college football or in pro football, right? When you have a 10-yard marker for a first down there, we know whether or not you've gained 10 yards. And so having a strategy means that you're going to hold yourself accountable to hitting goals. And that's scary for some people. Right? Strategies take dedication and they take work, right? I mean, in order to literally write these things down, that takes time. It takes a concerted thought process to say, what are my goals? How am I going to accomplish them? That takes time to sit there and think about. A strategy means that you're taking digital marketing seriously, right? When you write down a plan, not only are you taking time to create that plan, writing down that plan means that you are going to make a concerted effort to allocate your organization's time, a specific part of your budget likely, and that it's going to get a certain amount of your company's attention as well. When you don't have a documented strategy, you don't have anything to hold yourself or your business accountable to, and so there's no real way to fail. The converse of that I would challenge that notion on is there's really not a way to succeed either. And the reason that digital marketing strategies aren't incredibly common is that change isn't fun. It means that your organization is going to have a paradigm shift towards a digital first perspective. When you write down that strategy, it means risking trying new things and implementing new things. And no one likes to fail at first. And so it means absorbing a certain amount of risk as well. So, as you guys might have guessed, I obviously firmly believe that every single brand, whether you're a Fortune 500 company or a solopreneur, I think that every brand needs and relies on a digital marketing strategy. Number one, it gives you a target. Everybody who has ever shot a gun before or has done archery knows that you've got to have a point at which to aim, right? And so if you don't have firmly documented goals, how are you going to know what to aim for? It's impossible, right? You've got to have a target to know which way is north. A digital marketing strategy provides you the ability to optimize your goals, right? I always give my rant on Upward Basketball, and my apologies if any of your children are in Upward Basketball or Upward Soccer, or if you work for this organization, but I'll tell you what my impression of the organization has been. Upward Basketball is, from what I've been told, a faith-based kids league, sports league, where they play these sports, but the notion, at least what I've been told about Upward Sports, is that they don't keep score. It's that the precious little babies don't need to have score kept because we don't want them to have their feelings hurt, or we don't want to discourage them from continuing with the sport. And that sounds all nice and soft and wonderful, but at some point we've got to keep score, because we got to know who's good at this and who's not good, right? There are some people who should be playing professional basketball for a living, and there are some of us who should be marketing professors for a living, right? It doesn't mean that anyone is bad. It just means that we need to know what is working and what isn't. Without a strategy, without the ability to keep score, just like in a sports league, marketing teams aren't going to know what works. Success at its best will be a happy, fleeting accident that is challenging to replicate. Right? You've got to have measurability to know how to optimize for the future, so that you can continue being successful when you are successful. Right, number 3, a digital marketing strategy allows you to integrate your digital marketing tactics throughout the organization. Right, your goals and your voice need consistency, and without a plan, you're highly likely to fall away from that level of consistency. Just like you guys read in Nicely Said, certainly your tone can change, but your voice needs to stay consistent throughout the organization, whether we're in the research and development department, human resources department, or on the marketing team, both digital and traditional. Your goals need to be consistent throughout the organization. The brand that I look at for this is Domino's, right? Several years ago, Domino's had to face the music that their pizza really sucked, right? It was not tasting very good, that they were one of the lowest rated pizza chains as far as taste went. And that makes sense, because their brand voice was all consistent around, not that our pizza tastes great, but that we'll get it to you within 30 minutes or less. Right? Well, it's not that Domino's set out to have bad tasting pizza, but when their brand voice was all centered around speed, 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 well, it's no wonder that your goals followed your voice, and that they were just focused on being expedient and not of high quality. Right? So your goals and your voice need consistency, and that only can happen when you have a game plan for success. Number 4, a digital marketing strategy helps you keep an eye out for your competition. Right? When you have a strategy in place, just like any conversation is best when you start out with listening to the other person, a digital marketing strategy is at its best when you start out with listening both to your industry, what's going on in the industry around you, and when you are paying attention, you're also listening to your competitors as well. You're able to see what content they have that's working properly, how they're ranking on search engines, yeah, things like that, and how their social media networks are growing, things like that. It allows you to keep a better pulse of the market share that you have, and then what share of voice, what share of the digital conversation you're gaining in for your brand. Fifth, it allows you to be better equipped to make wise choices. When you have a strategy in mind and you know what you're seeking to accomplish, you might recognize that you're not properly equipped on your team to do some of those things. A brand that I previously worked with decided that they really thought that the best thing to engage their target market with was video content, online video content. Well, that was great, but what they realized is that no one on the team that we had in place had the capability to shoot and edit video at the quality that we thought that we needed. Right? So that told us that in order to have that as our strategy, well, we needed to buy a dadgum camera and we needed to have access to somebody who would, actually be able to shoot and edit this stuff. It allows you to be better equipped for wise choices. It allows you to put your money in the correct area, right? It allows you to say, wow, if I'm wanting to reach X number of people with my impressions, well, you know what? I need to allocate greater dollars to my advertising spend, right? It just makes sure that when you have a plan that you put things in the right in the right place. It also allows you to recognize if you're duplicating efforts and allows you to align those efforts, right? You don't want if part of your digital marketing goal is surrounding recruiting new staff members, well, you're able to decide, should the marketing team be doing that since it's online, or is the human resources team, in your recruitment team, duplicating those efforts with something that they're doing. So it allows you to be more streamlined when you have those goals all written down in one cohesive document. And sixth, it allows you to have an insight into the future. Just as I said, that allows you to keep a strategy, allows you to keep an eye out on the competition. It allows you to keep that pulse on your community, right? Just as you're listening to the industry and just as you're listening to your competitors, you also need to be listening to your community, obviously. What's important to them? Where are they getting their news and retaining their media and things like that? What are they interacting with on your networks? When you have a strategy in place for listening, it allows you to actually respond to what they are doing and what's making them happy and what's making them sad. So, what you should know about creating a digital marketing strategy? Well, the first thing is that they all look different. I'm going to show you, and we're going to follow one specific method in this class called the Zostak method. But by no means is this the be-all and end-all marketing strategy technique. Simply for the purposes of this course, it's an efficient and very straightforward method. But what I would encourage you is that to make a marketing strategy that makes sense for your company and organization. Next, your digital marketing strategy should be data-driven and realistic, right? Goals without a plan aren't goals at all. It's just a wish, or it's hope, right? These things need to be data driven, and actually focused at numbers of what your organization can accomplish, and then numbers on how you will accomplish them. This is not the place for motivational speak. This is the place for data and realism. Keeping in mind the current resources that you have on your staff, who your current audience is, both geographically and demographically, and then what your goals of your organization are. Nobody wants to be unpopular, but if your goals of your organization don't consist on a wide amount of share of voice in your target market, perhaps the growth of your population size in your, on your social networks isn't of the utmost importance to you. And then finally, keep in mind that a strategy is only as good as its ability to be sold if you work for an agency, or understood if you are working for the brand itself. If this strategy isn't compelling, or if you don't understand it, it's time to start over, right? This is not the place for jargon that you don't understand. This is for the place for understandable things for your team that everybody can be aligned around, right? I mean, if Nick Saban created a strategy for his team, a game plan for his team, but no one understood what the heck he was talking about in his plays, well, that strategy is as good as nothing. All right, so here is the Zostak planning system. I did not create this. This was created by a group called PR Smith, but it's a pretty widely used digital marketing plan. Obviously, with some of these sub-bullets that you're seeing down here, the black type, we haven't spoken about in this class, but what I want you to do is to consider that we've used synonyms for these things, and that you know exactly what this system is talking about. All right, let's start with the S right here, the situation analysis. So all the situation analysis is, if you look at this black text, is just your listening phase, right? All we're doing here is we're listening to, number one, our industry, right? They call that market trends. We're listening to our competitors, right? They call that the competitor analysis. And then finally, we're listening to ourselves, right? Our current target market. They're calling that customer insights. So this is where we're taking a stock of how many people are in our Facebook, on our Facebook page. How many Twitter followers do we have? Is our website good or bad? Do we have a blog, etc.? And then what are our internal capabilities and resources, right? That's kind of where we're listening to our own team. Next, we have the O in the Zostak method, the objectives, right? And just as I said that a digital marketing strategy shouldn't be there to try to accomplish everything, I think that the 5 S's that they have laid out are actually really good, and but you should not pick all 5. What I encourage students to do in this method is to pick 2, at the most 3 of these S's to try to accomplish in your digital strategy, right? Are you trying to sell things online? Are you trying to provide high quality customer service, customer satisfaction? Are you trying to provide a wow factor to your current marketing techniques? And then are you trying to speak with your customers, engage your target market? Are you trying to save money on other marketing efforts? That's the O in Zostak. Next is your S, your what they call the strategy. And they have the stop and sit, but if you really look at what the stop and sit is saying here, it's almost exactly like when you created your unique sales or your unique service proposition earlier in the semester, right? If you really look at what it's talking about, we did this with a USP. And so what I encourage you to do is to create a thorough, unique sales or unique service proposition for your brand that you're choosing to do your final project on. Don't worry about this stop and sit thing unless you really, really want to do that. Just create a unique sales or unique service proposition. Next, the T, the tactics. And I like to say that the tactics and actions here kind of go together. Let's zoom down on these together a little bit. Right, the tactics are kind of the big picture version of the tactics are a big picture version of your actions, right? So the tactics are where we're saying these are the big picture items that I need to do in order to accomplish my goal. So this means that I need to be active on social media because X. I need to have a robust website with a blog because Y. I need to engage in email marketing because Z. And then the actions that correspond with that are just the specifics of that. So for example, I need to be active on these specific social media networks. And here's where you would give me some statistics on why that is the case. Things like that. And then you would list your internal resources that you would need for that, or external agencies that you would need to partner. So how often do you need to be posting to those social media networks? What does the data tell you? What is the system, the approval system, if any, that we need to have in place to make sure that this is the highest quality? Things like that. And then finally, after that, let's scroll up here to our control. All the control section is it's talking about how do we measure for success? What are the key performing indicators that we have in place with this? What are we going to use to analyze our success for all of this? Are we going to be leveraging Google Analytics? Are we going to be, and then what are the metrics that we look at, to gauge whether or not we'll be successful on this, right? We talked about our smarter goals earlier in this semester. That goals need to be strategic, measurable, actionable, relevant, timely, exciting, and risky as well, right? So this is the section where we're saying what it is that we're seeking to accomplish with all of those. Okay. Awesome, guys. I'm going to be posting a separate video in a day or two to show you some examples of what some successful past strategies have been in this course and why I thought they were successful. But for right now, you've got a quiz due this week. All I want you to do for your quiz this week is to tell me what brand you would like to do your final project on, and then tell me why you are choosing that. And I'll write all this down for you in our post this evening. And then I have one more question for you, just as a pre-planning thing of how you plan on retrieving that data from them. So a relatively easy quiz this week. I know you guys have Mimic Pro work to do, so I didn't want to bombard you with another quiz. Guys, I hope you're having an outstanding week. If you have any questions, like always, please feel free to reach out via email or feel free to give me a call as well. Thanks, guys. Have a great week and go Mocs.